It addressed my uneducated, fictitious father-in-law. At my beloved daughter's wedding, I noticed something incredible inscribed on the nameplate. Despite the fact that we are not blood relatives, is this some kind of mistake? I questioned the groom. Then he said icily, "This is how I really feel. You and your daughter are not real family." His parents said, "You are merely a phony relationship." Her parents' lack of education and ragged appearance is pathetic. Please don't be involved in her life after today. When my daughter noticed this, she seized my hand at the reception and said, "Daddy, let's go home." You're right. We abruptly departed the venue after that. However, this incident was just the start of something far more startling that would occur a few days later. You can call me Michael Owens. I have been employed as a construction worker ever since I finished middle school. Everything in my life changed all at once. My wife Melissa was admitted to the hospital, and I was working at the site as normal when I got a call from them. They informed me that she was in critical condition after her condition abruptly deteriorated. We hurried to the hospital after I hastened to pick up my daughter Sophie from daycare. Melissa was barely aware and breathing heavily when we walked into the room. I held Melissa's hand tightly and continued yelling her name because I didn't want to believe what was happening to me. "Are you able to hear me? It's me. Look, Sophie is also present." Melissa blinked slowly and mumbled something in a low voice in response to Sophie's and my words. Then her hand lost its strength, and I realized she was dead. Melissa was just 25. She was too young to pass away. If only we'd discovered the sickness sooner. I wish I had made her visit the hospital. That kind of regret kept coming to me. I couldn't accept the reality in front of me, even though I knew there was nothing I could do at this point. Our marriage lasted only a few years. Were we not meant to create so many wonderful experiences with each other? A little set of warm hands cupped my tear-streaked face as I knelt next to her bed and started crying. "Daddy, are you okay?" Sophie, my 4-year-old daughter, brushed away my tears and gave me a worried look. "Thank you, Sophie." Still not understanding that Melissa was no longer with us, I went through the motions on the day of the funeral, mechanically greeting family members. It seemed like a dream to be gazing at her pictures while surrounded by scented flowers. My uncle, who I hadn't seen in a long time, came cautiously toward me at that moment, looking around to make sure no one was looking. "Michael, can we talk for a moment?" We went to a more peaceful area when I gave a nod. Before he spoke, he let out a long sigh. I really apologize for what transpired. At her age, nobody anticipated something like this. Yeah, I was at a loss for words. At least you were able to be with her in her final moments. That's something to be grateful for. I forced myself to speak, trying to stay strong, but I could feel my voice tremble. He put a hand on my shoulder and spoke in a comforting tone. "You must be hurting, I know, but maybe this is a good time to think about Sophie's future." "Sophie? What do you mean?" I frowned without thinking. He hesitated, then looked me straight in the eye and made a suggestion. "Michael, how about letting Melissa's mother in Tokyo take care of Sophie?" "What? There are better schools in Tokyo. I think she could get a better education there than out here, in the countryside. And raising her on your own must be tough." I was speechless. Just then, my aunt, who had been listening nearby, interrupted. "Michael, there's no way you can raise that child while working alone. Besides, she's not even your biological child. She was Melissa's daughter from a previous relationship." She said it in a harsh tone. Other relatives started agreeing with her. "She's not your blood. That's why raising her will only get harder as time goes on. Even without a blood connection, love is enough." I tried to speak up to say that love was enough, but I was quickly cut off. Love alone isn't enough. Parenting needs experience, and a mother's presence is important. You can't do it alone. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. "I understand how you all feel, but..." "No, you don't understand." My aunt interrupted again. "You're still young. You should think about your own life. It would be best for Sophie if you left her with Melissa's mother." I looked around. Everyone was nodding in agreement. At that moment, something inside me snapped. Sophie may not be my biological child, but she is my daughter, and I love her with all my heart. I raised my voice, and the room went silent. "I will raise her on my own. That was a promise I made to Melissa, and it's something I'm determined to do." My uncle opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand to stop him. "I'll say it again. Sophie is my daughter. Blood doesn't matter. We're family. Please stop discussing her future like she's someone else's responsibility. With everyone's eyes on my back, I returned to Melissa's portrait. Melissa, I'll keep my promise. I'll raise Sophie with everything I've got. I met Melissa near the end of spring. It was during a chance visit to a cafe with cherry blossoms dancing in the air that we ended up sitting next to each other. Excuse me, is this seat taken? No, please go ahead. That was the beginning of our relationship. Melissa had a brightness like the sun, something I didn't have. She brought me out of my shell and opened my eyes to the world beyond. But after about 2 months, Melissa confessed something serious. Michael, I need to talk to you, Melissa said as she asked me to meet her. At the cafe, sitting across from me, Melissa spoke while keeping her eyes lowered. I'm pregnant. For a moment, I was speechless. What? She was carrying another man's child. It had happened before we met, and she was no longer with him, but I never saw it coming. When Melissa told me about the baby, I couldn't hide how confused and overwhelmed I felt. We had only just met, and I wasn't ready to think about becoming a father to someone else's child. What are you planning to do? When I asked her that, Melissa answered with tears in her eyes. I deeply regret the careless decisions I made that led to this pregnancy. I'm going to have an abortion, so please don't worry. Hearing that left me with complicated feelings. An abortion? Oh, I'm sorry for saying all this. You deserve to be happy being with someone like me. Before she could finish, I reached out and gently took her hand. Wait, Melissa, don't blame yourself like that. She looked at me with a surprised expression. Yes, I was shocked at first, but the more I got to know you, the more I realized I wanted to be with you. Tears filled her eyes. Really? Even someone like me? Yeah, really. Most people think family has to mean blood relations, but there are plenty of families out there who are connected by blood and still completely broken, just like the one I grew up in. Melissa quietly listened to my words. I know I can't fully understand what you're going through, but I want to stand by you, and I want to help raise this new life with you. I want us to be a family. Melissa looked at me, her expression a mix of surprise and joy. Michael, the truth is, I had thought about going through with the abortion without telling you, but this child came to me for a reason, and I wasn't sure about the decision. More than anything, I didn't want to keep secrets from someone as honest as you. Thank you for accepting me. I gently wrapped my arms around her. From now on, we'll face everything together, the three of us. And so a new chapter of our life began. While supporting Melissa during her pregnancy, we started preparing for marriage. People around us had mixed reactions, but we trusted each other and kept moving forward. Then, as the fall deepened, Sophie was born. After being present for her delivery, I gently touched her tiny hand in the newborn nursery. Sophie gripped my finger tightly, and in that moment, her soft, warm hand melted all the fear and uncertainty that had been weighing me down. I'm going to protect this child. I want to live my life for her. That was the moment I made up my mind. Melissa suffered from postpartum depression, but we supported each other through it, middle of the night feedings and changing diapers. We had no experience, but watching Sophie grow brought a joy that nothing else could match. Michael, thank you. If you weren't here, I don't know what I would have done. As Melissa said that, I gently pressed my finger to her lips. Don't think about the past anymore. We have a future together with Sophie. Let's fill it with as many happy memories as we can. Melissa nodded, tears in her eyes. There were tough times, but we believed in each other and faced them as a team. Even without blood ties, the bond of love in our family grew stronger every day. But that happiness didn't last. Melissa's illness was discovered. At first, we thought she was just feeling a little under the weather. But Melissa kept saying, I'm just a little tired, and began lying down more often. With her days filled caring for Sophie and handling the housework, it became harder and harder to find time to go to the hospital. I'll be fine. I'll feel better soon, she'd say with a smile. But her face grew paler by the day. I was worried, too, and suggested several times that she go to the hospital. But Melissa kept putting it off, saying, I won't make it in time to pick Sophie up from daycare. Even on weekends, something would always come up. Sophie's needs are my work. And before we knew it, Melissa's condition worsened drastically. One morning, while preparing breakfast in the kitchen, she suddenly collapsed. We called an ambulance and rushed her to the hospital. After tests, the doctors told us it was already too late. If only you'd noticed sooner. If only you'd brought her in earlier. The doctor's words cut through me like a blade. Even after she was admitted, Melissa kept worrying about Sophie and me. I'm sorry. I should have taken better care of myself, she said, and I couldn't say anything in response. Caught up in the demands of daily life, I had noticed her declining health, but failed to take proper action. It's something I'll regret for the rest of my life. After Melissa passed away, I threw myself into work and raising Sophie. Coming home to the house filled with memories of Melissa was always painful, but Sophie's presence kept me going. Daddy, welcome home. She would greet me at the door after coming back from daycare. Just seeing her smile could wash away the exhaustion of an entire day. Ever since graduating from middle school, I'd lived on my own so I could take care of myself. But balancing work and raising a child was more difficult than I ever imagined. When I said, Sophie, how about curry tonight? Her eyes lit up as she answered, Yay, I love your curry, Daddy. She ran to the kitchen and put on her apron. I want to help. Seeing how eager she was made me smile. Thanks. Can you help me wash the carrots? As we cooked together, Sophie happily told me about her day at daycare. Hearing her voice filled me with a deep sense of happiness. After work, I'd pick her up from daycare every single day. Back home, there was no time to rest, so I'd dive into chores, make dinner, and give her a bath. It was a nonstop routine. Daddy, let's play with the duckies in the bath tonight. She'd shout as she ran to the bathroom. Dragging my tired body, I followed after her. All right, but not for too long. Okay. As I read her favorite picture book at bedtime, I reflected on the day. Daddy, let's play again tomorrow. Okay. She said that and closed her eyes in my arms. Looking at her sleeping face, I felt a renewed sense of determination. Hearing her call me Daddy gave me the strength to keep going no matter how tough things got. For someone like me who grew up without knowing the warmth of family love, Sophie was the greatest gift life had given me. Then one day, I came home from work to find Sophie holding a piece of paper, waiting excitedly. Look, Daddy, Miss Thompson praised me today. She proudly showed me a paper with the word, Thank you, written neatly on it. That's amazing. Your handwriting is getting so good, Sophie. I couldn't help but praise her out loud. Sophie's voice sparkled with joy. I want to write as beautifully as you do, Daddy. Her words brought a lump to my throat. All right then, let's practice together. I'll teach you. Okay, I said, gently patting her head. On weekends, we often went to the park together. As I pushed her on the swing, my thoughts drifted to Melissa. Your mom would be so proud of you, you know. The words slipped out of my mouth. Is Mommy watching us? Sophie looked up at the sky and asked. Yeah, I'm sure she is. She's probably incredibly proud of you, Sophie. Sophie beamed and began swinging even higher. Mommy, watch me, okay? Her voice echoed through the clear blue sky. Balancing work and raising a child was never easy. There were times when I was so exhausted. I felt like giving up on everything. But Sophie's smile and the way she called me Daddy always gave me the strength to keep going. One night, after Sophie had fallen asleep, I sat looking at a photo of Melissa and quietly spoke to it. Melissa, our daughter is growing up to be an amazing girl. I miss you so much, but having Sophie here gives me the courage to keep moving forward. Thank you for this beautiful gift you left me. When Sophie turned 6, I decided it was time to tell her the truth. One evening during story time, I sat her on my lap and gently began to speak. Sophie, Daddy has something important to tell you. She looked up at me with her big eyes. What is it, Daddy? I took a deep breath and continued. You know, you actually have 2 daddies. What 2? Sophie looked surprised and asked again. That's right. One is me, the daddy right here with you. The other is the one who helped bring you into Mommy's tummy. Sophie looked thoughtful for a moment, then said, But you're still my daddy. Her words filled my heart with warmth. That's right. I'll always be your daddy. After that, we talked about it from time to time. One day, while playing on the swings at the park, she asked, Daddy, I have 2 daddies, right? That's right, Sophie. But I think you're my real daddy. Why do you think that? Because you're always with me. Time passed, and Sophie graduated from college and got a job with a company in Tokyo. Living apart from the daughter I'd raised brought a bittersweet mix of pride and loneliness. One evening, as I was preparing dinner after coming home from work, my phone rang. I glanced at the screen, and it was Sophie. Hey, Daddy. Is this a good time? Oh, Sophie, You usually text. This is a surprise. Well, I'm coming home next month, and there's someone I want you to meet. Her voice sounded slightly nervous. Someone you want me to meet? Yeah, I've been seeing someone. I see. Are you mad, Daddy? Her voice trembled a little. No, I'm not mad. I was just a little surprised. I guess my little girl's really growing up. Really? I'm so glad. So what's he like? He's kind, dependable, and hardworking. He always treats me with respect. I'm glad to hear that. If you're happy, that's all that matters. Thank you, Daddy. We're actually planning to come back together. I'd really like you to meet him. All right. I'll be looking forward to it. Hearing that Sophie was stepping into her own future made me feel both proud and a little bit lonely. A month later, Sophie returned home with her fiancé. When the doorbell rang, I felt a slight nervousness as I opened the door. Daddy, I'm home. Her cheerful voice filled the entryway. Welcome back, Sophie. Standing next to her was a tall young man. He gave a polite bow and introduced himself. Nice to meet you, sir. I'm David Foster. It's an honor to meet you. Thanks for coming all this way. I'm Michael Owens, Sophie's dad. I reached out my hand for a handshake. David was a pleasant and respectful young man, wearing a neat suit and speaking with confidence. He carried himself well. I couldn't help but feel a bit self-conscious about my plain clothes. Please come on in. I invited them into the house. We sat down in the living room with tea and began talking. So, David, what kind of work do you do? I asked in a calm tone. After graduating from university, I started working at my father's company. I'm in the business planning division, helping to launch new ventures. Sounds impressive. What university did you attend? I graduated from Tokyo University with a degree in economics. Tokyo University? That's a great school, Sophie added with a smile. David even started a business back in university. Is that so? David looked a little shy as he replied. Yes, my friends and I developed an app for students. It didn't work out, though. Even failure is a valuable experience. I bet it taught you a lot and shaped who you are today. Absolutely. That experience helped me grow. As we continued to talk, I came to truly appreciate David's character. David, there's something I'd like to talk to you about, I said, my tone turning serious. David sat up straight, a bit tense. Yes, sir. I've been working as a construction laborer ever since I graduated from middle school. David didn't look surprised, and he nodded with respect. That's an incredibly demanding job. I respect that. I hesitated for a moment, then went on. And I'm not related to Sophie by blood. David's eyes widened slightly, but he quickly regained his composure and answered with a steady voice. I didn't know that until now, but if it weren't for your hard work and love raising Sophie, she and I would never have met. His words moved me deeply. Thank you, David. Just then, Sophie chimed in with a cheerful smile. Yeah, I never really mentioned it, but Daddy and I aren't related by blood. She said it with such ease, like it was no big deal. Because I've always believed you were my real dad. I never once cared about blood ties. And I never thought twice about you being a construction laborer. If anything, I'm proud of it. David was silent for a moment, clearly surprised, but then gave a warm smile. That sounds just like you, Sophie. I figured you weren't the kind of person who'd care about things like that, so I didn't think I had to bring it up. David looked at me seriously and said, Sophie grew up to be such an honest and strong person because she was raised by a sincere man like you, Mr. Owens. I felt my eyes start to burn with emotion. Thank you, David. Please take good care of her. David gave a firm nod. I promise I'll make her happy. Seeing the two of us, Sophie smiled brightly. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you, David. I'm really truly happy. And with that, the meeting ended in a warm and peaceful mood. Then the wedding day finally arrived. Since David's parents had been too busy with work to attend any pre-wedding gatherings, this was the first time both families would be meeting. As I sat in my chair, I noticed members of the groom's family casting glances in my direction. The chatter around us died down, and in the silence, I overheard faint whispers. I couldn't catch the exact words, but it was clear they were talking about me. Nice to meet you, the groom's father said stiffly, his face stern. Beside him, the groom's mother forced a smile, though her eyes and mouth were visibly strained. Nice to meet you as well. I'm Michael Owens, Sophie's father. At first, the conversation stayed on safe topics such as the weather and the view from the venue. But once the topic shifted to me, the atmosphere changed. The groom's father cleared his throat and spoke. By the way, Mr. Owens, I heard from my son that you work in construction. May I ask what department you graduated from in university? Was it engineering? Before I could respond, he continued. We have several relatives who graduated from top national universities and now work at major general contractors. Then the groom's mother chimed in. Oh no, dear. Mr. Owens actually entered the workforce right after middle school and has been working on site ever since. Her words left me momentarily stunned, but I quickly regained my composure. Yes, that's correct. I started on the ground and have since moved into mentoring younger workers, but the groom's mother ignored my words and pressed further. Oh, right. I'd like to confirm something. While we're here, is it true that you're not Sophie's biological father? Yes, we're not connected by blood, but I've raised her as my own daughter, and I've always seen her as family. To his mother, who was looking me straight in the eye with obvious contempt, I calmly spoke my truth. Then the groom's father added, we only found out just before the ceremony that Sophie had such a complicated background. It's been quite a shock for our entire family. I answered quietly but firmly. Regardless of blood, Sophie is my beloved daughter. That has never changed, and it never will. I'll continue to support and love her as I always have. The groom's mother scoffed through her nose. Do you really think love alone is enough to raise a child? Raising someone else's child must have been quite the burden. Has Sophie never expressed interest in meeting her real father? He might have had a better job than a construction laborer after all. Those words nearly pushed me over the edge. But I clenched my fists and reminded myself not to let emotions get the better of me. Not here. And then Sophie entered the room in her wedding dress. The moment I saw her, every hardship and memory came rushing back. Thinking about all the hardships Sophie had overcome, my heart swelled with emotion. All the frustration I had felt earlier melted away, replaced only by pride and joy. We moved to the chapel, and I walked down the aisle with Sophie at my side. I held her hand firmly, praying that the ceremony would go smoothly. As the ceremony came to an end, I felt both relieved and overjoyed at the sight of her smiling face. More than anything, I wanted to continue watching over her happiness. That thought filled me with a deep sense of pride as a father. Later, I went to the restroom to wash my tear-streaked face. As I opened the door, I overheard a conversation by the sink. Did you see that name card? Yeah, I did. It was wild. The guests were laughing and talking, but I didn't understand what they were referring to. I brushed it off and returned to my seat at the reception. As I walked in, I noticed people chuckling. And glancing my way, I found my seat and sat down, and my eyes immediately landed on the nameplate in front of me. Next to my name, it read, The Uneducated and Poor Fake Father. I instantly recalled the restroom conversation, though they were talking about me. Staring at the nameplate in disbelief, I realized the people around me were laughing out loud. Shame and anger surged inside me, but I knew that if I lost my temper here, they would use it against me. That's how construction laborers are, hot-headed and unrefined. So I bowed my head and waited for the attention to shift elsewhere. That's when David and his parents appeared nearby. I looked up and asked, David, is this some kind of mistake or maybe part of the entertainment? Though I knew this wasn't a joke, I desperately hoped I could brush it off that way. But David coldly replied, It's exactly how I feel. His parents followed. You and Sophie aren't even related. You're a fake family. It's pitiful that she had to grow up with a low-educated, shabby parent like you. Please don't involve yourself in her life anymore. Where had the polite young man I met gone now? He looked at me with the same cold contempt as his parents. I couldn't make sense of what was happening. My head spun. Then Sophie came running over to me. Daddy, let's go. Yeah, let's go. As we left the venue, we could hear whispers behind us. I've never seen a bride walk out in the middle of her own reception. Like father, like daughter. The spring night air outside was still chilly as it brushed against our skin. Our footsteps quickened naturally as we walked in silence toward the car. The noise of the crowd faded. Behind us, replaced by a heavy quiet between us. Daddy, can I have the keys? Sophie asked softly. I pulled the car keys from my pocket and handed them to her without a word. She got in the driver's seat, started the engine, and pulled away slowly. Outside, the streetlights of the highway flashed by in a blur of orange. Inside the car, it was silent, and only the sound of our breathing filled the space. I stared out the window, trying to process everything that had happened. For a while, neither of us said a word. Then Sophie suddenly spoke. "Daddy, thank you." Her words made me look up in surprise. "Why are you thanking me?" "Because even after everything they did, you didn't get angry for my sake." There was no point in getting angry. All of this happened because of me. I let out a dry laugh, bitter with self-blame. But Sophie quickly denied it. "No, that's not true. It happened because I chose the wrong man. And Daddy, if it's a marriage that makes you unhappy, then it's not worth anything to me." Her words hit me hard, so I couldn't say anything in return. I knew there were many times I made her endure loneliness and sacrifices because I stubbornly raised her on my own. And yet, she never once blamed me, and she embraced me with warmth. "Sophie," I couldn't get the words out. "Daddy, I've always been proud that someone who loves me this much isn't even related to me by blood." Her voice was soft, yet filled with quiet strength. "I'm the one who's lucky, Sophie. I'm truly happy to have you in my life." Sophie smiled gently. "Daddy, you know, today made me realize something." "What is it?" "That the bond between us is stronger than any other family." Her expression was serious and sincere. I listened quietly to her words. "All the days you spent raising me, the laughter, the tears, and everything we shared built something unbreakable between us, Sophie. So, let's keep walking together." "Okay." She smiled again. "Yeah, of course we will." Before we knew it, the sun had set. The car continued quietly along the night road. After a while, Sophie spoke up again. "Daddy, actually, I tore up the marriage registration." She said it with an apologetic look. I looked at her in surprise and asked again. "You tore it up?" "Yeah, ripped it to pieces. I'm mailing it to him tomorrow." I had to hold back a laugh. "I see. Honestly, I think that's for the best." "Yeah, I think so too," she said, visibly relieved. "So, what do you plan to do from here?" Sophie thought for a moment. I'm not sure yet, but I don't think I need to rush." "You're right. Take your time, Sophie. I want to take some time to reflect on myself, and I'm thinking of coming back home for a while." "I think that's a great idea. I'll always be on your side, Sophie." "Thanks, Daddy." The car rolled on in silence, but the air between us was warm and comforting. "Sophie, want to eat something when we get home?" "Yeah, I want your omelet." "All right then, omelet it is." No matter what lies ahead, I'll walk through life with Sophie. With that vow in my heart, we headed home. Some days later, a news report aired that the foster family company had filed for bankruptcy. Sophie stared at the screen in disbelief. "Daddy, their company went bankrupt." I glanced at the TV and felt a complicated knot tighten in my chest. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, David and his parents were standing there. The memory of the wedding came flooding back, and Denise stirred in my chest. "It's been a while." David bowed deeply, and his parents followed with stiff, reluctant gestures. The coldness I had seen on David's face at the wedding was no longer there, and his voice carried genuine remorse. But his parents were unchanged. His mother avoided my eyes, and his father stood silently, unmoving. "I'm deeply sorry for what happened back then." David bowed deeply and continued, his voice trembling. "I followed my parents' wishes and acted disgracefully. I truly regret the way I treated you and your family, Mr. Owens." I could sense the sincerity in David's words, but his parents' awkward demeanor spoke volumes. They still couldn't let go of their pride. It felt like they were only here because David had insisted. "It's too late," I replied calmly. Everything had ended on the day of the wedding. Without showing the slightest emotion, I continued. "When we first met, didn't my name ring a bell?" "I'm not sure what you mean. I used to be your company's largest shareholder. I own more than 2/3 of the stock." Hearing those words, David and his parents were left speechless. A shareholder holding over 2/3 of a company's stock can single-handedly make decisions on crucial matters, including dissolving the company. In essence, they hold the reins of power. The truth is, I had planned to tell Sophie after the wedding. I had spent years studying and investing so that she'd never be left with nothing if anything happened to me. I started with the life insurance Melissa had left behind. It wasn't just money, it was her love and hopes as well. And I wanted Sophie to have all of it. In time, I built up enough wealth to ensure we could live without worry. And with that fortune, I became the largest shareholder in David's family company, intending to gift it to Sophie after marriage. But after the wedding was called off, I sold the shares to a trusted associate who had been waiting for the chance. Since I never attended shareholder meetings, they had never seen my face. To them, I was just a name on paper. After I sold the shares, the company's condition deteriorated rapidly. They must have made many enemies. Eventually, the shareholders voted to dissolve the company. A year has passed. Since then, the events of that wedding changed everything. David and his parents now live in ruin. They were blamed by relatives, smeared by scandals, and one business partner after another fell into bankruptcy. Their reputation was in tatters, and their lives spiraled downward. Meanwhile, my daughter Sophie chose a different path entirely. She rose from the hardship and became a beacon of hope for many. Daddy, the NPO is officially approved. Just the other day, she came to me glowing with excitement. Congratulations, Sophie. You've really worked hard. I pulled her into a hug. Using the money I had invested, Sophie started a nonprofit to support children without parents. She poured her heart into it. It's because of you, Daddy. You believed in me when it mattered most. Her eyes sparkled with tears of gratitude. During her work, she met Kyle, a single father, and eventually married him. They built a loving, happy home together. Mr. Owens, Sophie has changed both my life and my daughter's. I'll always be grateful for her kindness and strength. Sophie is truly fulfilled now, living a happy life. Even after all that happened at the wedding, she found happiness. Sophie, you really did it. I'm so proud of you. Daddy, I think it's because of what I went through back then that I can feel this happy now. Sophie smiled as she spoke. True happiness often lies beyond the hardships we overcome. Sophie and I learned that lesson firsthand. Since I moved in with Sophie, her husband, and now our grandchild, my life has completely changed. These days, nothing brings me more joy than spending time with my granddaughter. Grandpa, let's go to the park today. Little Kayla tugged at my hand with excitement. All right, let's go, I said, gently patting her head and smiling. Just holding her tiny hand and seeing her smile makes everything in life feel worthwhile. Watching her grow is now the very purpose of my life. Daddy, we found out the baby's gender. Sophie came to me beaming with excitement as she shared the news. It's a boy. Kayla was so excited to be a big sister. The news that another grandchild was on the way filled me with even more anticipation and joy. In this world, it's true that many people still place value on visible things like blood ties, education, and traditional family structures when defining happiness or success. And I understand why those things are easy to measure and compare. Daddy, our family might not be normal, but we're happy, aren't we? Yes, we are. Blood doesn't matter. What's important is the love we share for one another. Happiness comes in many forms. Even if someone doesn't have what society deems as ideal, that doesn't mean they should feel ashamed. When you shift your perspective, you can find seeds of happiness hidden in any situation. And how you nurture those seeds can change your entire life. I love you, Grandpa. In that moment, I felt true happiness in every part of my being. Blood, education, and social status, none of it matters. This right here is my real happiness.